Hey guys, this is Dr. Sandy, and today's an interesting topic. We're going to talk about how body age may not correlate with your spinal age. Are actually two separate components. So, what am I even talking about there? So, technically, you can have someone who is 30 years old, and because they've just played maybe a lot of sports, maybe they had a very physical job, even though they're in their 30s, they may have the spine of someone who's in their like 40s or 50s because it's had so much trauma and stress and all these other things. And also on the other side of the spectrum, you may have someone who's 50 who's really taking care of themselves, really had good spinal hygiene, spinal maintenance. And even though they're older, their spine may look like someone in their 30s. So we're going to take a deep dive into that. And obviously, the intention of this video are what are things we can do to make sure that as you get older, your spine is well maintained, as healthy as possible, because you would never want to be in a situation where your spine is aging faster than you are, because that will lead to complications. And let's even talk about that. So, a core concept in chiropractic we talk about is a subluxation or a misalignment where the vertebrae actually are not moving properly and it causes a whole array of problems in the body. So we're looking at the spine, and I'm really kind of simplifying it, but what's basically happening is the spine, obviously, if it's healthy, is supposed to move, protect the spinal cord, which is running through. But let's say one of those areas get jammed or locked. What starts to happen? And we call this the 5 components of a subluxation. So the first thing that will happen is that if that joint gets jammed, one of the first things that can happen is we can see that the neurology gets affected. So number one, we can have abnormal neurology. So now the nerves may be not firing correctly, overfiring, underfiring, whatever it looks like. But there's just an imbalance in that nerve system. So things are just not working neurologically the way they should. And as you already know, the nerve system is your master system of the body. It's literally how the brain is communicating to the body. So we want your spine to be healthy so that brain-body communication is healthy. And if it is, it can allow healing, optimal function. The body can work the way it was designed, which is obviously healthy and strong. But if there's a disruption to the system, if there's a disruption to the nerve system, the body doesn't work the way it's supposed to. And you always have to remember the nerves go to every part of your body. All muscle groups, all organs, all overall coordination and function is mastered by the brain through the nervous system. So it can affect the neurology. Number two, the movement is obviously getting affected. So it can actually affect the way the joints are operating and moving, causing an inflammation type response. Number three, it can also cause muscle damage, wear and tear. So obviously we have the spine. Surrounding the spine, you have these different muscle groups. And if those muscle groups are not in a balanced position, like if someone has poor posture, let's say, I'm going to exaggerate, but someone's tilted this way. So there's certain muscle groups that are weak and certain that are maybe overworking, and there's an imbalance in those muscle groups that can cause problems. Obviously over time you have an imbalance in those muscle groups, and this person might be trying to eat good food and go to the gym, which they should, but they may not be optimal. And then we can see certain muscle groups actually like wearing down, getting inflamed, not responding the way they should. So it can affect the nerve system, it can affect the joint, it can also affect the muscles. The other thing that can start to happen is we can see things like an inflammation response, and even things like ligaments and tendons starting to get more wear and tear because things are not aligned. They're not properly where they should be. And all of these things, so we have the nerve system under stress, we have the joints under stress, we have the muscle tone, we have the tissues actually changing around it, inflammation type responses. All of these things in translation mean acceleration of aging of the spinal system, that neural system, that whole spinal cord, the spinal vertebrae are actually just starting to accelerate that degeneration. And obviously that's a concern because a lot of people will say that, as we get older, there's a concern about arthritis, there's a concern about degeneration, and there will be some of that, but there's so much we can do to minimize it and slow down that process. So we want to be aware of that. And ultimately, if we really don't care of those areas in the spine that now the nerve system is not working the way it should, the joints are getting affected, movement is not proper the way it should be, the muscle tone's getting affected, we're seeing inflammation response, even now maybe tendons and ligaments are getting involved. Ultimately, you can have a breakdown in function at that certain level. Now that could be possibly a joint, but imagine you have vertebrae that may be affecting your breathing capacity, because let's say with breathing, you have muscles involved, you have nerves involved, and we always look at the body from an optimal function point of view, right? Obviously with the shoulder or certain joints in the body, but things are not just going to operate the way they should, and it's going to have a global impact. And we have to start looking at the spine as a gateway to the whole body. I think sometimes we look at the spine and say, you know, I have pain right here, which definitely, of course, we want to help that. We want to help people going through that. But it's such a delicate and powerful system at the same time that is having impact on the muscle tone. It's having impact on organ function depending on the level. So obviously more at the top, if there's any type of misalignments and any type of nerve dysfunction occurring, so this potentially can cause the headaches, the balance issues, trouble with focusing, trouble with sleep, all related to like the upper cervical type area. As we go a little bit lower in the upper thoracic area, you know, that area like just I guess above the shoulder blades, that starts to affect breathing function. You're starting to get into like cardiac function, things like that, as we start to go lower in the spine. So this would be more brain related. This over here would be more cardiovascular. As you go a bit lower, digestive function, elimination, hormonal. So we have to be sensitive to the fact that these are critical systems. We have to take care of them, and we should. And how can we? So obviously, number one, you need to move. You need to exercise. There's no question. And I think most people know that. Whether that's a walk or going to the gym or doing yoga, you need some type of movement at all times to keep the nerve system, to keep the spine healthy. Obviously, the food you should be eating clean as much as you can, close to Mother Nature, real food, not highly processed food. We also want to be aware of our thoughts, the way we're thinking. If we're constantly stressed, that actually causes wear and tear on the body, and it actually causes wear and tear on the spinal nerve system. So we want to take care of those things. We want to pray, meditate, do things that bring us joy, that help with the healing process. And then the big thing I would also suggest is we can do these things, but taking care of the spine should be a critical part of your overall health regiment. So you need to eat well, you need to move, you need to do those things, you need to get enough rest, of course, manage your stress, but taking care of the nerve system. There's certain segments that even if you stretch or do things, the goal of chiropractic is to keep it in alignment, go to those areas that may need assistance, and while you're working with your chiropractor, you're managing your lifestyle. So you're always working like a team. And I love that in the chiropractic model. And even for myself, I've been doing this well over 20 years now. I still see my chiropractor on a regular basis. I get adjusted on a regular basis because I physically obviously can't reach those areas. But I also know when I see my chiropractor, I have a responsibility as well. So it's a very synergistic way. And then I'm making sure I'm doing things to keep the brain, to keep the nerve system healthy, because I know that's the master system. We know that in the science. There's no doubt about it that the brain and nerve system controls all major function in the body, and let's protect it. So as we get older, we do have a good quality of life. And whatever age you're at, you want to maximize that. You should be thinking well, sleeping well, feeling your best. And that's why taking care of the spinal system is so critical. So I really hope this helped you. I wish you and your family only the best. I hope you're strong and healthy. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at 905-896-3393. Call us. Text us 905-896-3393. Go to our website, gopowerflow.com. We're here to help you, your family, and friends. We're here to help the young people. We're here for children, adults, and senior citizens. We're just here to help and serve. So God bless you and have a great day.